Happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope that your Wednesday is off to a great start. I hope that the first part of your week has been good and that the second half, the remaining part, will be exceptional. Well, listen, I have a word that I want to share with you today. I felt so strongly in my spirit about this word. I wanted to share it last night, but it would have been incomplete because I was just so eager and in my haste, and it just wasn't the time. So I have it for you today. Someone needs to set up that memorial stone, that stone of remembrance. And let me explain what I mean by that. A few months back, I began studying the nation of Israel and the things that took place as they were preparing to cross over into the promised land and once they crossed over into the promised land. Because anytime we get a word about the promised land, we want to take off running because it's a promise. It's a promise that God spoke to us, and we're just excited about at seeing those promises unfold. But I wanted to study that more in depth, just so that I could govern myself accordingly when I entered into that promised land. And one of the things that stood out to me in Joshua 4 was that as Israel, the nation, was preparing to cross over into the promised land, Joshua instructs designated individuals to take up a stone, one for each of the 12 tribes, and that when they crossed over the Jordan, that they would set those stones up at a specific place. And naturally, out of curiosity, they asked what was the purpose of those stones. And Joshua tells them that that was to be a memorial, so that future generations would remember that this was the place where the Lord dried up the Jordan for them to cross over. And then even when we go back to the nation of Israel's forefather, Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel, we see in Genesis 28, at this point, he had left his father's house. He and his mother, Rebekah, had concocted this plan to steal Esau's blessing and therefore his birthright, because the blessing went to the firstborn, the eldest, which in this case would have been Esau, but Jacob stole it. And as a result, his mother was concerned for his life. And so she sent him to go live with her brother, Laban, which would have been Jacob's uncle. But as Jacob is journeying there, of course, he lies down to rest, and he lies on this stone, this pillar, and he has this dream. It's the famous Stairway to Heaven dream, where he sees angels ascending and descending. And when he wakes up that morning, he takes that pillar and he sets it up as a stone of remembrance, because he named the place Bethel, because he said, surely this is the house of God and the gateway to heaven. And so why is this stone, these stones of these memorial stones, these stones of remembrance, important? Well, when the nation of Israel crossed over into the promised land, they had the battle of Jericho. They had a battle. Now, granted, they won it easily, but needless to say, one of the first things that they dealt with was a battle. And there would be other battles, the conquests at Ai and other things that would come along the way. And so that stone, that memorial stone, was for them to remember that God had spoken a promise, and God told them that he was taking them into a land flowing with milk and honey, that they would be prosperous there. So when there are things that come up that look contrary to the promise of God, that memorial stone is a reminder that God has spoken a promise. And for Jacob, right, in Genesis 31, there comes a time where the Lord instructs him to return to his father's house, the land of his inheritance, his birthright. And remember, Jacob didn't leave on good terms with his brother Esau. Esau wanted to kill him. So naturally, Jacob would have been afraid to go back to that place because Esau was there. But the Lord comes to him, the angel of the Lord comes to him in a dream, telling Jacob, reminding Jacob that I am the God of Bethel. Remember, that was the place where Jacob set up the memorial stone, and he named it Bethel, the house of God. Surely God is in this place. Woo! He says, I am the God of Bethel, the place where you anointed the pillar and made your vows. Because Jacob made some vows there. And God, because he is a promise-keeping God, he was letting Jacob know that he was going to be with him. That all those vows that were made there, God would be with him, and Jacob would be all right. So I don't know what physical demonstration you need to do to set up the stone of remembrance, the memorial stone. Because listen, we face challenges and situations that seem counterintuitive or counterproductive or contrary, if I'm even using the correct words, to the promises that God has spoken into our life. And he's spoken promises into our life. And that memorial stone is to remind us that God is who he says he is, and God will do exactly what he says he will do. So when you come up against things that make you question the promise of God and whether or not it will be fulfilled, you can look back on that memorial stone as a reminder that God is with you and he will do exactly what he said he will do, because he will not allow the words that he's spoken over and in your life to go unfulfilled. They will not return to him void. They will accomplish exactly what they set out to do. So be blessed, my friends, and set up that memorial stone, that stone of remembrance.